Bruce Hamill helped his lover, David Peter Woodcock, aka Michael Krueger, kill a man because he had refused Woodcock's sexual advances towards him. Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. Thank you to those of you that are returning subscribers, and for those of you that are new, welcome. Please, if you can, take a minute and just hit the subscribe, the notification bell, all that fun stuff. And if you're enjoying my content, please hit the like button so that I know and I will continue to make the same type of content. Guys, I just wanted to give a disclaimer for this video. This video is actually going to be very brutal, so if you're not up to watching, please take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one. Today's story is about Canada's youngest serial killer, Peter Woodcock. So Peter Woodcock, also known as Michael Krueger, was born on March 5th in 1939 in Peterborough, Ontario. He was a Canadian serial killer, child rapist, and diagnosed psychopath. He gained notoriety for the murder of 3 young children in Toronto, Ontario in the late 1950s, as well as for a murder in 1991, which happened on a day that he was released for the very first time in 34 years on an unsupervised day pass. It was actually for 3 hours, but they still called it a day pass. Peter Woodcock's prized possession was his red and white Schwinn bike. He had the compulsion to wander around, so riding this bike, it really helped him with all of that. And at the time he was being fostered, and his foster parents didn't think anything of it. They just thought, you know, this is fine. It's helping with his compulsion. And so he ended up riding all over Toronto on this Schwinn bike, and unbeknownst to his foster parents, he was essaying young children and eventually murdering. It was during these rides that he developed a fantasy. In this fantasy, he led a group of 500 young, invisible boys, and he called them the Winchester Heights Gang. So what's Peter's background? What could have possibly happened to him? Was he born this way? Was there something that happened that created this monster of a serial killer that just, and everything kind of just went to shit? There's the age-old argument, was someone born this way? Is this something that, you know, something happened that traumatized this person that made them turn out to be this way? So again, he was born on March 5th in 1939 in Peterborough, Ontario. And he was born to a 17-year-old factory worker by the name of, and I'm sorry if I butcher this, Weta Woodcock. And Weta had him for approximately only a month. And then he was given into foster care. And it's said that he was just like such a fussy child. He didn't feed. He cried all of the time. And I just guess at the age of 17, you're working a full-time job and you're single, obviously. That's got to be a lot to handle. So, you know, she did the unselfish thing and put him up for adoption at the age of 1 month. As an infant, he stayed in various foster homes, but he was unable to bond with any of these foster parents. And it was finally at the age of 3 that he was placed into a safe, stable home. And that would be with the Maynards. You see, at the age of 1, what happened was he just became terrified of anybody coming close to him. And there were reports that basically if anybody approached him, he would start literally screaming, and he made these strange noises where he sounded like a whining animal, and he was just completely incoherent. It said that he was physically abused around the age of 2 by one of his previous foster parents. And this is backed up by evidence where he was taken in for medical treatment for an injury to his neck. Again, this is at the age of 2. I don't envy anybody that's been through the system. I can't imagine even just how hard it is. And this is what's going on at the age of 2. So again, this is a year later. He's now 3, and he gets placed with the Maynards, Frank and Susan Maynard. And they took him into their house on Leighton Boulevard, where he stayed with them and their older son. It wasn't long before the Maynards started noticing like behavioral problems. Red flags were going at left, right, and center for them. Very, hyper aware, which is amazing. And so they went above and beyond the Maynards. Like from the research that I've done, they took him to sick kids. He was in private schools. There wasn't a thing that they couldn't have done that they didn't do to try to help Peter Woodcock. And unfortunately, a lot of it fell on deaf ears. There was even an instance where Peter was walking with a social worker through the Canadian National Exhibition. Torontonians, we call it the CNE. And he turned to her and said, "I wish a bomb would fall on the CNE and just kill all the young children." And she was kind of like, more red flags. Sexual fantasies were also present around this time. And so we're now at around age 10. So at this point, the social worker has, taken in his comment about, the bomb falling on the CNE. And so he was then sent to a special school for children with behavioral issues in Kingston, Ontario. It did no good. This is where Peter actually ended up starting to act on his sexual fantasies. And he actually said that he had sexual intercourse with a 12-year-old girl while he was at this special school for disturbed children. When he turned 15, he was discharged from the behavioral school and sent back to live with his foster parents, the Maynards. And they had re-enrolled him into private school at this point. It didn't really do any good. He still had just insane issues trying to connect with his peers. The social skills were not there. He was a know-it-all. He became a target for the bullies, I guess you could say. He just was like easy pickings. And so it didn't make life any easier for him trying to, adapt and fit in. It just wasn't happening. At the age of 16, Peter actually left the private school and enrolled in public school. And then the same old thing happened. He couldn't connect with anybody. Again, he was better than everybody else. He knew everything. And again, this just kind of made him a target for to be bullied. And that's how unfortunate. It's so he was really good in school. From the research that I've done, he got straight A's. His teacher spoke really, really highly of him. And so I'm just kind of wondering, some kind of little evil genius. In early 1956, Peter started acting on his too strong urges. He was fascinated by the human body and attracted to young children. And he started playing what he referred to as sex games. Peter described what this game was, and it was choking a young child into unconsciousness before undressing them. These assaults later escalated to murder. On September 15th in 1956, Peter Woodcock, who was now 17 years old, was riding around on his bike at the CNE, Canadian National Exhibition, when he met 7-year-old, and I'm sorry if I butcher this name, Wayne Millette. He lured Wayne out of sight and strangled him to death. Millette's body was found early the next morning on September 16th. It appeared that his clothing had been removed and then he had been redressed. Wayne's face had been pushed into the dirt and there were bite marks on his body. Remember this. One bite mark was on his buttocks and the other was on his calf. There was no evidence of an SA. However, pennies were found scattered around his body. Is that your calling card? That's not the weirdest part. The pennies, that is not the weirdest part. Peter Woodcock actually defecated beside Wayne Millette's body. And allegedly, Woodcock later stated that before Millette's murder, he had molested over 100 children. On October 6 in 1956, Woodcock was riding his bike around Cabbagetown, Toronto, and this is where he came across 9-year-old Gary Morris. And poor little Gary accepted a bike ride from Woodcock, and Woodcock took Morris to Cherry Beach, again in Toronto, and the coroner reported that Gary passed from strangulation and blunt force trauma. So Woodcock had beaten him and strangled him to death. It was said that Morris's liver had ruptured and that was the actual cause of his death. And there were bite marks found on his neck as well. Again, more bite marks. And not like the pennies before, but this time Woodcock scattered paper clips all around his body. I guess he's trying to create some kind of, I don't even know if he's aware that he's creating some kind of signature for himself. You know, each serial killers normally have a calling card, so some kind of signature to an MO, if you will. And I don't know if he was aware at the age of 17 that he was letting law enforcement know that, hey, this is me. It begs to question, are you born this way? Or did something happen to make you this way? Wayne and Gary both had bite marks. Wayne was on his buttocks and his calf, and Gary's was on his neck. They were both undressed and redressed. They were both strangled, with the exception that Gary, his death was also related to a beating, again, rupturing his liver. The pennies, the paper clips. Look at the similarities between the two murders. On January 19th, 1957, Woodcock was again riding his red and white Schwinn bike around, and this is where he approached a 4-year-old little girl. This one's really hard, you guys. She's a 4-year-old little girl, and when her body was found, she had been undressed. She had been choked and strangled. The hardest part is that she was essayed with a tree branch into her private area, and that tree branch is actually what caused her death. Fucking sick. When 17-year-old Peter picked up 4-year-old Carol and offered her this ride on his red and white Schwinn bike, this is when Toronto media dubbed this case as the Bloor Viaduct murder. Strangely, it was only after Carol's murder, his third victim, that he actually got arrested. Mind you, it was a 4-month spree, and then you've got police trying to go through a needle in a haystack. So maybe. And this is in the 1950s, so they didn't have DNA testing and the forensic testing that we have. But it's just... Okay, so this is wild. Initially, police actually arrested and charged another boy, Ron Moffat, for the murder of Wayne Millette. They were relentless. The police just went after Moffett. Like, they were like, they would not stop. This 14-year-old boy is sitting in a police station. He's a minor. Where are his parents? Have they read him his rights? Oh my God. Where's his lawyer? What's going on? Is this where the system fails us? They went hard at Ron. They interrogated him like relentlessly, like interrogated him until they got the confession that they wanted. It's kind of like Brandon in the Avery case. Brandon Avery. So they got their confession from this 14-year-old child who had a fucking alibi. This kid, he was at, like, witnesses came to his defense. He was at a movie theater before and after the murder. So, and yeah, as a mom, this fucking pisses me off. Moffat was actually like found guilty, and he was sentenced to a youth detention center. They're now like putting everything together and realizing, okay, wait, there's an MO here, there's an MO here, there's an MO here. These maybe are linked together. After they finally, you know, shared notes, which couldn't have done that previously, like before the trial of Moffat. No, okay. So, long story short, they go on the hunt for this serial predator / killer, and Moffat still sat in jail. Are you shocked? Because I'm not shocked. I grew up in Malvern, in Scarborough, Malvern, and yeah, police officers, thank you for your service, but the misdeeds do not shock me, which in all honesty is fucking sad. When these notes were finally shared between police, Moffat, the charge against Moffat was actually stayed, and then he was finally released. So I found two scenarios as to how like Woodcock was like found and arrested. So bear with me. The first one, allegedly, is that Carol had accepted the ride on the bike with Woodcock, and her little friend was in the area, in the vicinity, and took note of Woodcock. And later, when everybody's looking for Carol, he was like, Mom, I know who this person was. I know where she went. Well, I know who she went with. And he gave a description of Woodcock, and so, you know, said he had a red and white bike, and he was slim, and he had glasses on. He recognized him so much to the point that he was able to assist in helping a sketch artist create a sketch of Woodcock, which would then be run on the front page of the Toronto Star for a lengthy period of time. Not only that, but they took the sketch to various schools, and they about 300 lookalikes. They found about 300 lookalikes. And these 300 lookalikes, they were all questioned. The second is that 4 police officers remembered an incident where Woodcock had been found with a missing young girl. And it said that detectives were able to match his tire prints from one scene, this scene where he was found with the young missing girl, to Carol's crime scene. They were able to match the bike tires because he had left imprints in the snow. Guys, here's the really creepy part. And I mean, like, at this point, Woodcock's now arrested. And he actually said, my biggest fear was Mother. I was afraid that Mother would find out and that the police would let her at me. She was his biggest fear. Like Norman Bates much? Although he confessed to all 3 killings, he was actually only tried for one, and that was for the murder of Carol Boyce. And on April 11th in 1957, after a 4-day trial, It only took the jury 2 hours to deliberate and find him guilty by reason of insanity. And then what happened? That's when he was sent to Oak Ridge Mental Health Facility in Penetanguishene, Ontario. Did y'all watch my last video about Oak Ridge? Yeah, there's a whole lot of fucking crazy shit that went on there. Like, I'm talking like wild, crazy. You should watch it. Shocker, only because I've done a lot of research on Oak Ridge. When Woodcock got to Oak Ridge, he was diagnosed as a psychopath. And then he was put on LSD to treat him, among many other things. And if I butcher any of these names of the medication, please forgive me. Woodcock was put on personality-breaking drug treatments, which included scopolamine, sodium amytal, methadone, and dexamyl. He was also subjected to dyads, which is a personality-breaking therapy. This therapy was where inmates challenge each other's beliefs. The inmates actually referred to this treatment as the 100-day Hayden. It sounds like, let me just call and book my my stay. Oddly enough, Woodcock did not turn out to be the ideal prisoner. No, he did not. He would engage in coercive sexual acts, and so like basically he just preyed on other inmates that were either less intelligent than him or less sane, if you will, for lack of a better word. Woodcock convinced these inmates that on the outside he was in contact with a gang called the Brotherhood. And if they wanted to be initiated into this gang, they had to perform sexual acts on him. And bring him cigarettes and other treats. And these guys Woodcock also had a lover. His name was Bruce Hamill. Oh, fuck Bruce Hamill. Okay. There's a whole story there. Bruce Hamill was sent to Oak Ridge after he was found criminally insane for the murder of his neighbor, who was a 58-year-old caretaker. He stabbed her 36 times. Can you say overkill? Why did he stab her? He said, she made my mother mad. She was mean and rude and very insulting. The body count I would have for every person that bugged my mom? No. So, found guilty, charged, convicted, 1977, off to Oak Ridge. And this is where he met Peter Woodcock. He and Peter Woodcock became sexually involved. Hamill ended up being released in 1988, but he kept in touch with his lover. Woodcock was eventually released to less restrictive institutions, and this is how he ended up at Brockville Psychiatric Hospital. The staff there must have, they must have been taking the meds that were supposed to go to the patients, because, okay, remember, all 3 of his victims, bitten, I'm not going to show you my butt, but bitten, calf bitten, everybody's been bitten. Chomp, chomp, chomp. You're with me here, right? Okay, so first, they actually take him to Smith Falls Railway Museum because he loved trains. And let's go back to the biting. They took him to see Silence of the Lambs. What the fucking fuck? Remember, he bit his victims. Does anybody read the notes? There's fine print. Read the file. So, while Woodcock was incarcerated at Brockville Psychiatric Hospital, this is when he legally changed his name to Michael Krueger. Stay hydrated. And while he was at Brockville, he rekindled his relationship with Bruce Hamill. Do you guys remember him from earlier? Bruce Hamill, the convicted murderer, was actually working as a security guard at the Ottawa courthouse. Oh yeah, why not? I don't know how, but Woodcock, he was able to convince Bruce Hamill that there was an alien brotherhood, and this alien brotherhood would solve all of his problems if he helped Woodcock murder a previous inmate from Brockville Psychiatric Hospital, and his name was Dennis Kerr. Ready for this? I have no idea how this happened, but somehow Bruce Hamill was designated as an approved person by Woodcock's medical treatment team, which meant that Bruce Hamill could sign out Peter Woodcock on a daily pass. On a daily pass that would be unescorted by any type of law enforcement or security or medical staff. And that Bruce Hamill was the one person who was solely responsible for Peter Woodcock. This means that Woodcock was literally escorted off of the premises from Brockville Psychiatric Hospital to wherever the hell he wanted to go by another convicted murderer. I've heard a few versions of what happens next, and one is that Hamill and Woodcock had lured 27-year-old Dennis Kerr to a random dirt road with a promise of, if you come meet me here, I've got $500 for you. And for some reason, Dennis fell for that. Allegedly. This is allegedly. Again, I have two different versions of what happened here. The other is that Woodcock and Hamill lured Dennis Kerr behind the hospital with the promise of a set of drums. When Dennis Kerr actually met up with the pair, he was then struck in the head with a pipe wrench, and the duo had hidden some sharp objects in the bushes, one of which was a hatchet, the other of which was a knife, and they just went at Kerr. I'm talking, like, there were actually over 100 stab wounds. They mutilated, they didn't stop there. They actually took turns sodomizing him. And then once all of these evil acts were done, oh man, Hamill, he ended up taking a bunch of sleeping pills and laying down next to Kerr's corpse because he had been told by Peter that, he was going to be, all his problems were going to be taken away by this brotherhood. So he was laying there next to Dennis Kerr waiting for some magic, for this brotherhood to bring him this magic potion that he was going to drink and everything was going to be okay. And little twist in the story here, Woodcock actually walked to the closest police station, which is about a 2-mile hike there, and he turned himself in. So he told the Toronto police everything. This is what I did. Yep, totally guilty. No disrespect to Dennis Kerr. So as Woodcock is sitting in the Toronto police station, telling officers what had just transpired, they kind of said, okay, well, we're going to just swing by the crime scene. And that's when they picked up Bruce Hamill. And his life did change. It didn't get better and all of his problems didn't go away, but there was a big life change. Again, the murder of Dennis Kerr took place in 1991. And it was in 1992 that Hamill and Woodcock were both found guilty by reason of insanity, which means that they were both found to be not criminally responsible for the murder of Dennis Kerr due to a mental defect. So for this, their punishment was that they were ordered to return back to Oak Ridge Mental Health Care Facility where they would be detained. In the years after Kerr's murder, Woodcock actually did a lot of interviews and a lot of books were written There's quite a bit of information if you want to research this case. The thing is, Woodcock tried to come up with reasons as to why he killed, and none of them were rational. He said in a 1993 interview that he was accused of having no morality, and he said that it was a fair assessment because morality was only what the system would allow. Bruce Hamill died at the age of 63, and he predeceased his lover, inmate, fellow psychiatric patient. On March 5th, 2010, Peter Woodcock passed away from natural causes on his 71st birthday. To all of the family and friends of the victims, and for all of the unnamed victims that are out there, those 100+ children, you have my sincere condolences. I hope that you guys have been able to find some peace in all of this. And to the 3 young victims, Gary, Carol, and Wayne, I hope that they're resting in peace. So do you guys think that anything could have been done to help Peter Woodcock? Do you think that he was born with this desire to do what he did? Do you think that maybe the early trauma in his early childhood had some kind of effect and sent him down this path? Like, what do you guys think when it comes to a serial killer and how their minds work? Are they born this way, or does something make them act this way? Let me know your comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that fun stuff if you're enjoying my content, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.